Self-Love Sunday. I am Tarnisha Mosash, your host of Self-Love Sundays with Sass. I'm your certified vision coach who comes every single Sunday so we can talk about all the ways in which you can better your best. And I want to talk about something this week because I know there is many people who've decided, right? They decided to follow Jesus. They are believing, they've been saved, and no one ever really had that conversation, the real conversation of this is just the starting point, right? Like no one said like this is once you make this declaration that there was going to be more that needed to be done. And so when I think about this, right, so I'm just going to give you guys what was happening with me yesterday. I was studying yesterday in the word, and I came across Romans 12:2, right? And so, and it's, I'm going to read from the NLT version. And here's why, like, you're going to have to come to know for yourself the different version of the Bible. But the two that I really love the most is the NIV and the NLT, but I also love the Passion Bible. And I'm going to read the NLT, and it says, do not copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. And this is where becoming begins. It's not in the performance of I'm just shouting, I'm just singing, or I'm just showing up. It's it starts in your mind. And this is when we start to have these conversations. Many people don't want to talk about it because no one wants to hear about mindset, never realizing that everything that has happened, whether past and or present, even what you're thinking about in the future, is all a result of what's happening in your mind. Because the moment, here's where things shift though. So when we talk about the becoming, because the moment you start letting God show you how to think differently, that's when your life starts to move differently, right? So it's when you partner with God. When you talk about renewing of your mind, all that means is to think differently, to shift the way you are seeing things, to shift the way you are experiencing life. And when you start to do it, renew your mind, right? And so it's not just about, because people think it's about affirmation or just learning scriptures or Christian quotes. It's about letting God have access to how you think, letting him rewire what's no longer working. You know something I really don't get? People will show up, and they'll show up in the way, whether it's watching your videos or coming to coaching sessions, or because I've been in many arenas where I go to these conferences, right? And people will show up with like, oh, I want something new, but I don't want to change the way I think, and I don't want to change the way I operate. I want to continue to say, oh, this is just the way that I am. Oh, I'm super forgetful. Oh, like you have to give me reminders. It's like, what are we talking about? The whole purpose of picking up our bed, picking up our cross and walking with it, and deciding, to build our spiritual foundation is to change the way we think, because what we have been doing hasn't been working. Now, let me just say this to you. If what you've been doing has been working for you, then this video is not for you. And I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm super excited that that's happening for you. And the truth is, it's not for 90% of people. And so letting him rewire what's no longer working. And it's almost, we call them sometimes paradigm shifts, and shifting from where you are to who you desire to become. It's like, it's not just the thoughts that change, it's the patterns that you've been locked into, because some people are just on this continuous loop. I was talking about that in my community this week, where we were talking about being aware of the loop, the pattern that you want. That's when you show up and you say the same things over and over, yet there's no real action behind it that's changing it. And so when you start to let God rewire how you think, it starts to get you off those loops, because you start to become more aware of the patterns, right? So becoming begins the moment that you decide. And we talked about this last week. When does change happen? When does it begin? It starts with the one decision. You have to decide, I no longer want to live based on what I've absorbed from my past, from the world, from social media, from my parents, from my grandparents, from my friends, from my community, and I want to live based on God's truth. That's a whole other way of thinking. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of what we have absorbed has been a bunch of lies. Now, I'm not saying that there hasn't been any truth mixed into it, because why else would the devil be so famous and he would work in the world so much? Is because he mixes a little bit of truth in with the lie. And so what happens when you renew your mind, you start to uncover all the lies that you've been shackled by, and then you wonder why you're not living the life that you want. You wonder why you don't have the love or the career or the business that you want. Is because you're shackled to lies. And so why am I talking about spiritual foundation today? It's because I want you to go to the way, the truth, and the light. Now, again, if you decide that Jesus is not it for you and whoever your God you serve is it, I'm okay with that too, because never ever do I want to show up and tell you who and what you should believe in. I want you to know it for yourself. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more today as well. And the purpose still is to get rooted in that. So I want to, when I do these videos, I always want to come from a place of what can I do today? Because I know a lot of times we come and we have these discussions and people go, well, what does that mean? What do I do? A lot of people don't give action steps. So what I want you to do is write down 3 thoughts that you believe have been holding you back. And then I want you to ask, what does God say about me? What, or is this something that I picked up from him, or is it something I picked up from the world? And you have to be honest, because in order to get to healing, we have to reveal what's on the inside of you, what's in your mind, because most people are operating out of their mind and not out of their hearts. And so we need to uncover and reveal. And even if you don't know that it's been holding you back, I want you to think about some disempowering beliefs though. For example, I hear people say all the time, I talk about love and relationships a lot because this is where people are generally, and they always talk about how, there's no good men out there, there's no good women out there. I hear also people talk about, in the terms of abundance, this is only for the rich, or only for other people who make a certain amount of money, whatever that disempowering belief is that keeps you stuck and stagnant where you are. I want you to ask yourself the truth. Is this what God says, or is this something that I picked up along the way? Because what people don't understand, and why it's so important to rewire your brain, and that means stepping away and stepping back from social media and all those things, is because we are literally on a programming that we don't even know. The thing that you consume the most consumes you. And if you don't believe me, I need you to go to your phone, because we all have this now, and look at how many hours of consumption that you are experiencing. Okay. And so that helps shape the way you think and feel and believe. And then you wonder why you're down sometimes. And it's like, oh, wow, I have a good life. Why am I feeling this way? 9 times out of 10 is the things that you're watching that's help programming your subconscious mind, and you're not even aware of it. And so I want to talk to you because actually choosing, and so when you start to step back like that, what are you doing? You're choosing self-love as almost a spiritual practice, right? And so I listen, Romans is one of my favorite. I told you guys I was studying Romans, and I love Romans 13:8. And it says, owe nothing to anyone except for the obligation to love one another, right? And so that's the scripture that talks about love thy neighbor as I love thyself, if you listen to the NIV version, right? So let's be clear about something. That love includes you. So why is it that I'm not manifesting the abundance of love, the abundance from people, or if I desire money or things of that nature? It's because you haven't given it completely and fully to yourself. You've surrendered to some things. You said, this is just the way that I am. You've said, this is how I'm going to be. You make small changes for a couple of weeks, and then you resort right back to old ways and old patterns. And so this stuff is in the way. Look, this is a daily thing. I want you guys to understand that your favorite coaches, your favorite therapist, or favorite people that you watch whether it's on YouTube, and thank you for watching me, and thank you for tuning in. For those of you who are new, welcome, welcome, welcome. For those of you who've been around a while, I love you and thank you so much for your support. And here's the thing about us. We're practicing this stuff every day. I got up this morning, I did my meditation and I did my mirror work where I'm standing in front of the mirror and I'm loving on myself and I'm speaking my affirmations and then I'm reaffirming myself. Okay. Because again, so many times we're looking for outside validation when it all has to come from within here. All right. So it's you I want you to understand that even those people who are just the people pleasers and just giving, it doesn't feel good because that's not the way that it was meant to be. His words are clear. Love thy neighbor as I love thyself. If you don't love thyself, then what you're giving to the neighbor is to your neighbors and to others is some leftover pieces of things and trauma and your energy is off and you don't even know it. Most people know that you're a people pleaser. So what happens is you start to attract people who are just taking from you and you think, oh, I'm just a giver. No, you're allowing yourself, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to tell you just to hold on for 1 second, okay? Just to hold on. I'm going to snatch just a little bit of your edges. No, you're holding on to being into this victim state. It's That's what that is. When I make a declaration that I'm just going to be here and this is just the way I'm going to be, I'm held victim and captive to those thought patterns and to those ways of being. And so you've been showing showing up all the things, but you've left yourself out of the equation. And I'm here to tell you, according to his word, self-love isn't optional. It's actually how alignment begins. So loving yourself means stop living on autopilot and start making decisions and choices that reflect who God says you are and not just a life you are conditioned to be in. I hear people all the time that say they just get in the car and just drive. And they end up in a place and they're just on, or they're with their children. There's no being present. I'm just on autopilot, shove the food, go through the drive through, feed them the fast food. I don't have time, do like, what are we talking about here? Just the autopilot of things. And then I know people who like sign up to be in communities and show up, and yet they're not fully present. They're in everything because they trust nothing. So they're never fully all in. They're 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and then upset about what happens in their personal life. You're never fully committed to anything, and you want to make it appear that way, but that's not the truth. You cannot be fully committed if you're first not fully committed to you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. So, what to do today? Do one act of love towards yourself. Just one. Whether it's saying no and giving yourself a break and letting no be a complete sentence. And sometimes that means saying no to ourselves. It says no to eating bad food, to putting nourishing things into our bodies, saying yes. So when you say no to the bad, you make room for the good. Me and my daughter yesterday spent a little bit of time in the kitchen. We were doing our little juicing. I mean, these are things you can do with your kids. My daughter is grown, but just those little minutes. I mean, fine, it was 20 minutes, but I got 20 minutes with my baby and we're doing something healthy. We have a little gym here in our community, and she went to gym, and I'm so proud of that because I know that's a product of her watching her mother for the years, not from telling her what to do, but showing her. When are you going to start to show up and start to be an example? So many people want their kids to get good grades and want them to be the best, and you're not showing up the best. You're disconnected. You're on autopilot. You're not present. If I were to grade you right now, you would be getting a D minus or F, and that's something that wouldn't be acceptable for you for them, but it's acceptable in the way that you live your life. How is that possible? Do you know that until you decide to step up and into the CBA, that your children are not going to step up into the CBA? There's something in you that you have to unlock. You get to unlock. You can choose to and know that you're blessed to unlock to get to that level. But you have to honor who you are right now, be real about it so that we can heal and then get to the next thing, the next level of peace, the next level of joy, the next level of abundance, the next level of relationship with your children. Because here's the thing, when garbage in, garbage out, and you feeding your kids garbage, you're feeding yourself garbage, whether it's through what you put in your body or social media, and then you wonder why things are happening the way they're happening. It doesn't work like that. And it doesn't work from the standpoint of, really not being honest. And so, again, Romans 12:3 says, be honest in your evaluation of yourselves. Measure yourselves by the faith God has given you. That's not, I'm paraphrasing. Read it for yourself. See how I did that? And this is not about judgment or comparison, because many people get that twisted. God doesn't want you judging yourself and comparing yourself to other people. He knows we're all flawed. That's the truth. This is about getting into alignment. It's time to stop like grading yourself by what others do, because that's what's happening. Why am I mentioning that? The reason why most people eat their pain away, they don't move their bodies, they get stuck in complacent, they scroll more than they post, is because they're comparing themselves and measuring their growth by somebody else and not by the faith that God has already placed within you. And let me just say this. I know that walking in faith and not by sight is not always easy to do. That's why we have to do daily work. The reminder benefits the believer, and we have to do daily work. Okay. And so we have to also get away from the fact of, I know when we're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, you're like, I should be further along. No, you should be right where you are. And here's why. Because what you can do with this time, even if you're in your 30s, is look at what got me to the point that I am today. Okay. What about that is in alignment with who God says that I am and what it is that I desire to do and who it is I desire to become? What if it is out of alignment, which means I need to get rid of it? What is it that I need to unlearn? Right. So it's about understanding that you're right where you need to be for a reason. And you have to get real about where you are. Right. And so here's the truth. You have to get real about where you are and where God is inviting you to work on next. Because I want you to understand that it's an invitation. So what can you do right now? Ask yourself, where am I resisting growth? What part of me needs more grace and just a little bit more structure right now? What would it look like to be in alignment this week? Write it down, because that's where the inner work begins. Let me explain something to you. The way to get to the self-love is to do the inner work. The way to evaluate yourself, and what is this doing? It's helping us to connect back to ourselves, mind, body, and spirit, because we are such a disconnected people. This is why there's less empathy in the world. I was looking at a story about the baseball player who was crying on the field because a young man was yelling out things about his mother who had passed away in an accident. And people have become just so numb to things that they think that things like this is okay. And this is why we got to get into our work. And so this is why we have to connect back to ourselves, mind, body, and spirit. So we're not out here just doing any and everything. And there's some of you who would think, oh, I would never do that. And you hurt people too. And you help people hurt people too. And so this is why we got to get into our gift. And I want you to know, oh God, in God's grace, God has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. Where did I get that from? Romans 12:6. We all have a beautiful gift buried within us. And here's the thing why I say buried within us, because I had to uncover. My gift was buried beneath all the pressures and expectations, the past traumas, and just the survival mode of the hustle and bustle and go get the money, like go get the money, go get the money, push it, like that. Literally, that was my anthem, like for a while, right? And just the hustle and the grind. I'm a hustler. I'm a hustler, like that. Like these were my songs. And then you wonder why we're so like exhausted, and we're just functioning and we're not flowing and living but not fully connected. The real work right now is coming back to yourself. And I say coming back because it's been planted and rooted within you. God placed it in you in the womb. And so you have to come back to that mind, body, and spirit. This is what I help women do, not to find themselves, but return home to what God has placed in them. So we have to uncover what is it buried beneath? The pressure of being perfect, the pressure of showing up, the pressure of not feeling embarrassed in front of people, the pressure of not wanting to fail, the pressure of success, the expectations that we place on everyone else, and so we do that because we place even more expectation on ourselves. this need for control, which is nothing more than trauma, nothing more than saying most people who are in that control is because they're running from something they don't want to be. Like I know people who came from impoverished background, they are in this control because they don't ever want to feel like they are broke again, never realizing that they are broke in spirit. So therefore it is still brokenness. And so we have to return home to the part that God has created and filled and set them apart with a purpose. And this is what I'm talking about in how to design yourself to win. This is winning in life for the thing that God placed inside of you. And we can't get there from a place of a lack and from a place of negativity and from a place of doing the same things over and over again, desiring, hoping, and wishing for a different result. And the reason why your mind keeps returning to that loop is because you don't want to rewire it daily. You want to do it one time. You want to go to the seminar for the weekend. You want to go to church and hoop and holler and jump and shout and scream. And yet you don't want to show up in it every day. And here's the thing, it's not easy, yet it's worth it. It's not easy, yet I have peace. It's not easy, yet the abundance is here. And anything worth having isn't necessarily easy, but here's the thing, there can be peace even when it's not ease. Ask me how I know. So what can you do? Take 10 minutes and really sit in stillness and ask God, what have I been ignoring in myself that you want to use? Come on, y'all. What have I been ignoring in myself that you want to use? And essentially, what I'm saying is, God, how can I be a blessing to others as you bless me? Because I want you to know that when you show up in a blessing to other, it is really helping you. When I coach people, it helps me more sometimes I think than it helps them. So let this be the start of your connecting back to what God has rooted and grounded inside of you. It's in there. Everything that you desire is in there. Everything that you want wants you. And here's the thing, you have to get to this point where you start to do the inner work. It takes work, baby. And I know you don't want to hear that, but it's a different kind of work. And yes, in the beginning, it felt exhausting. And yes, in the beginning, I cried daily. I would listen. And again, I cried because I was releasing. It's something beautiful about the tears. It's a release. You don't have to show up the same way. If you're a person that's super forgetful, guess what? God can rewire your mind where you can remember again. Why is it that you're acting that way? It's out of a trauma. It's the fear of rejection. It's the abandonment wounds that are showing itself over and over and over again. This whole thing of I can't get a hold of my abundance, my money, it's not showing up. And I'm always robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's a mindset. And I know that you want to hear that. You like, no, this is the way it is. And this is how, no, it's a mindset. I was a 322 a month welfare mother that took herself because of the inner work and the faith and belief in my God. And I had to get grounded and rooted to take myself to 6 figures. And to some people, that isn't even any money. And here's the thing, the truth of the matter is where I sit today and what God has allowed me to see, it isn't any money. There are people who make what I make in a year and a day. And so I know that it's coming. My job is just to relax and allow it. My job is to continue to show up. My job is to continue to pour. My job is to continue to study. My job is to continue to become a master of myself because that's what I've been doing. The reason why Design to Win was birthed is because I was going through the 3 steps with myself. Number 1 is to get real and get rooted into where I am now. Number 2 was to write the vision and make it plain, right? And number 3 was grow and go. That means God says go. And as I go, I'm going to continue to grow. What is it? Self-mastery. It's connecting back to myself, mind, body, and spirit. And this is how you begin to walk in a different kind of abundance. So that means even when the bank account isn't showing it, I still feel rich. What's up? Like real talk. Even when I don't see it, I still feel rich. What's up? I went to the car dealership yesterday. It was so funny. Normally I would dress up to do these things because I did, I wanted them to know, certain things about me. I was at the car dealership yesterday because I'm getting a new car and I went to the Lexus dealer. I love the Lexus. I had an ES350. It was like a 2009. It had like over 300,000 miles on this thing before I gave it to my oldest son. I loved that car. It was everything to me. And so I said, you know what? want to go back into Alexis. This is what I want to do. So I'm going, I just put on some leggings and a t-shirt and some sneakers. You know why? Because I realized it wasn't the clothes that made me rich, baby. It was how I felt on the inside. Feel me. It ain't what I put on my body. That's just the accessory. It's how I carry myself. I walked in there without a care in the world. Now, I didn't find, actually, the car that I want is actually supposed to come off the truck this week. And so I didn't walk out with the car, but I test drove it. Like, feel me on this. I got in, I got to feel how it felt. And let me tell you something different than I did. I went in with the mindset I was going to get an ES350. I took my son with me. And he was like, Mom, what about this car? Right. And I think there's like the NXX or something, NXC. So I don't even know what it was. Okay. And he's like, Mom, I love the seats. And because I'm not tied to anything the way I used to be, I don't always have to be tied to, the my way kind of thing. I said, let's try it, son. So we got in it and we test drove it. It felt good to me, and I was like, oh, I think I'm not going to get the ES350. I think I'm going to go with this. And so again, it's allowing myself to flow and not be tied and not be stuck in my old patterns and my old ways. I realized that this car had me sit up a little bit higher. It gave me a little bit more comfort in the seat. And I love the feeling of sitting up higher in the car. And it was just like, oh, I love this. And not only just that, I took my son with me. Why did I take my son with me on this trip? Because I didn't have to. I didn't need to, because I want to show my children every step of the way what happens in your life when you decide and you choose a different pattern, a different way, when you choose a different paradigm. Sometimes I close my eyes and I just envision the shells in my mind being knocked over. Why am I doing that? I'm knocking them over and I'm moving them out of the way so that God can implant new things in me, so the Holy Spirit can rain down on me. Yes, absolutely, I do this. And where did I get that from? Bob Proctor. Okay, I do that. I do the meditation. I do the shift. Why? Because some of the old ways that aren't, they're not, they may have got me to this point. That go get the money, hustle, hustle, push it, got me to a certain point, and it's not going to take me to my next level. We know something about the one percenters that's there. I noticed them, I studied them. You know something that they all have? They all have a therapist, they all have a coach. They're not hustling and grinding. They spend more time. If Warren Buffett spends more time thinking and reading than he does doing, how about that? You don't even give yourself enough time to think. You're in everything, doing everything, showing up everywhere. Say what now? So some of the richest people in the world, this is what they do. And you just want to keep going with the opposite. Okay, do your thing, baby. And I'm here to tell you that when you decide something different, everything is different. It's just that simple. It's not so complex. It's just a decision, baby. And I'm here to tell you that your next level is here, but it won't come through the waiting. It won't come through the hustle. It's going to come through your willingness to get intentional about your work. The more you do the work on you to become the master of that gift that God has given you, I'm going to tell you something. The more your world going to change, the more confident you feel. Listen, I pick up this camera. I am not the girl who picked up this camera in 2017. I'm not her. If you go back and look at my old videos, you can see the evolution. And I would never be able to evolve if I didn't get into the work. So this is your reminder. You don't have to have it all figured out overnight. And you don't have to do it perfect. Child was showing up all kinds of crazy ways when I first started my YouTube channel. Okay. All you're here to do is to take the next right step. One foot, put one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. And as you're walking, ask God to walk with you. He is always talking. He's always there. You just can't hear him because you're bogged down with everything and everybody else. What would your life look like if you just took the time out? You just took the next 3 to 6 months and started to really get into you. Or you took the next 3 to 6 months and got yourself with a coach. And let me tell you something. I know some people that have been in therapy for years and things have not changed. You know why? Because they're sitting in there and using that as a crutch. And they sit in, and let me tell you how I know this is the truth, because I don't just speak from non-experience. I had a woman who come to me. She was a doctor and she had been in therapy for years and she was suffering from depression. If you were to see Dr. Keisha today, you would not believe that she's the same woman. You know why? Because I confront things that therapy never confronts. front. I hit you with the truth. And the bottom line is, and it's not that therapy is a lie, is that it allows you to linger and to sit in. I am not that girl. Okay. We're going to get to the bottom of things so that you can thrive and stop being on this same loop and stop sitting into this. And I know you don't like to hear it, and it's the truth today, the victim mode. Okay. This is why you've been doing the same things over and over, hoping for a different result. And then you start to get to a resolve where I'm just good with being by myself. I don't need a man. I don't need a woman. I don't need this and I don't need that. All that's doing is resolving to something because you think that you are not worthy and that you can't have more. And it's simply not the truth. Now, here's the thing about me. I'm like Mel Robbins, baby. I'm going to let them if that's what you decide. And if you decide and choose that you want something different, all you have to do is call out, okay? Because you don't have to do it alone. Because here's the truth. We were never meant to do it alone. If that was the case, we wouldn't need a womb to be birthed in because you would be able to come here all by your lonesome. Okay? What? Your becoming is your responsibility, but you were never meant to carry it by yourself and walk it out by yourself. You keep telling yourself that because you keep being let down. You keep being let down because you keep leading with the same thoughts and feelings over and over and over again, hoping for a different result. I had to learn that when people show me who you are, they have to believe them. Now, God gave me a gift of vision. That means when I see people, I can see in them. I can see what God placed in them and who he's calling them to be. And just because I can see it don't mean they're going to be it. So I had to come to with my gift as I'm working through it now. It's like, oh, no, 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 baby. You may be able to see what God placed on the inside of them. And unless they choose it, now my job sometimes is to go in and awaken it. And I do that. In the truth of the matter is sometimes they still won't walk in it. They'll get to a certain point and then go right back because then they'll be like, oh, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed because you haven't given it time. Nothing has changed because you're not working on it every day. Nothing has changed because you're looking at everybody else and not looking at you. You keep saying this is just the way that I am. Oh, this is just the way that I operate, as if God is not great enough to help you operate in a different space. And here's the truth. You won't even give him 5 minutes of your morning when he's giving you 30, 40, 50, 60 years of living. And then you wonder why things are not going the way you desire them to go. What if you just stepped back and got into the person in the places and the things got away from, the person and place and things that have gotten you to where you are, and get into the creator, the one who has designed you to win. What if we did that this week? How about we start that this week? And if you're committed to that, all I want you to do is just write in the comments, I am committed to starting this week. And I am looking to grow my YouTube channel. So please, please, please like, share, subscribe. I thank you so much for listening to me today. I hope you have the most amazing, amazing week. And just know it all begins and ends with you. And you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are the head and not the tail. You are above and not beneath. And you have to believe that. You get to believe that. You can choose to believe that and know that you're blessed to believe that. I love you guys. Have a great week.